All right, neurohackers back for more. You ready to geek out with me, parents? You've been very patient going through what neuroplasticity means, synaptic pruning, understanding why my course is so successful, and now you are ready to dive in with me to give your child the best potential future they can ask for. So, you know what? I just feel like this is a beautiful time to say to you before we get into all the details, just congratulations. Your child, I believe your child chose you before, it says in Jeremiah 29:11 that I know the plans I have for you. And know in Hebrew has a few meanings, but one of them is yada, and yada means contract. So, coming from my financial business background, I totally believe that your child made a contract to come down to earth to be taught by you. And I'm so grateful that you guys are opening your minds, your hearts, that you're quitting culture, and that you realizing that the quantum intelligence technology is inside of you. So I didn't expect to start off like that, but you know what? That's a really good way of telling you that's really how you should be kicking off anything that you do with your children, is just to uplift them and just let them feel that magnetic love pulsating out of you so that they can automatically get into the alpha brainwave stage so that you can start filling their mind, stimulating them, every single neuron, so that we don't allow one to get synaptically pruned. How does that sound? Okay, so let's dive into the brave developmental milestones. In the previous video, you heard me talking about how excited I am that I am actually going to do an in utero project. Well, my children were the projects, so I should call it just a course. We will be doing a course on that online. And as I said, I do have my photographic memory school starting up in September. So we will be doing it in person as well. And if you're interested, www.buildyourbrain.org to sign up over there. And we also have a private Facebook group that you can see a link down in the chat if you want to get some freebies or just join other like-minded neuroseekers. So let's start with in utero. Believe it or not, and this, I mean, you fall under this category too. You have never been as clever as you were in utero. For me, the most important fact is that it's your heart that starts beating first, and you have 40,000 neurons in your heart, and from those neurons, the brain develops. Isn't that really interesting? Plus, when we get into the three brains, you will see that your second brain, which is your heart, and your third brain, which is your gut, do most of the communicating up to the brain, which I just find absolutely fascinating. But let's go into utero. So picture this: every minute, 250,000 neurons are being produced. That means by the end of your pregnancy, your child has 100 billion neurons. Okay, crazy fact, right? But up until that stage, no other brain development goes at that exponential rate again, ever in your life. And the saddest part about that is, which is again why I love my course, is that you will never experience such a big neural pruning as at birth. Your body just gets rid of all the neurons that it's not going to use. So again, this is where I help you guys in that course make as many synapses and connections as possible to ensure that we minimize the synaptic pruning. Okay, so the neurogenesis really, okay, definition, we dealt with neurogenesis a few episodes back, but that's just a nice way of saying new neurons. Okay, and that the neurogenesis is most active during the embryonic developmental stage. But if you're watching this and you're a parent and you've got kids that are older than in utero, do not be disturbed. We still have way more milestones that we can hack for your child. So from birth to age 1, can you believe that at birth, the child's brain is already a quarter of the size of what it will be in the adult size? And then a year later, it doubles. So a year later, at age 1, it's already at 50% full growth potential. So I'm the person that the glass is half full. So it's halfway to fully developed at age 1, which is crazy. Now, at that stage, they are forming 1 million new neural connections per second. Okay. This is why in the photographic memory course, I show you the manifestation of the word that one picture is worth 1,000 words. And actually, I've tuned it a bit to say one picture is worth 1,000,000 synapses. Because what happens is if you take, I don't want to get too mathematical because I actually worked this out with you in the course, but if you could just take for granted what I said, and we'll work it out in the course together or in the private Facebook group. That might be a fun one to work out together. But your neurogenesis is happening from birth to age 1, and this is the most active period outside of utero. Okay. Now, age 1 to age 3, I don't know if I should start with the bad news first. So I suppose let's go. I'm that kind of person too. You're learning a bit about me now. It's not just boring neuroplasticity that we're talking about, but unfortunately, by the age of 18 months, that's when neurogenesis really stops. Now, does that stop in terms of brain growth? No, but it stops in terms of the neurons. So what happens from here on in is what they call synaptogenesis. So in other words, the synapses now start firing more, and those become more active. And there's also the transition of the neurons. So they don't all stay in one place, because we've got to remember, you see my logo behind me, the brain starts forming when they come out of utero. They're at the back of the pons. That's where most of the synapses are starting to fire. And gradually, as the child grows and the brain grows, so everything starts moving forward. And that's why we always say the brain growth is 0 to 7, because by the time the prefrontal cortex is fully formed, that's when the left brain takes over. That's when the analytics and the linguistics start taking over the critical thinking. And so that's what actually, believe it or not, slows our brain down. Okay, let me rein myself back in to age 1 to 3. So we've spoken about by the age of 3 now, 80% of the brain is fully formed, or is 80% of the adult sized brain, which is really interesting. I've just broken it up into every 2-year span because it looks like really that's how it's developing every 2 years. So age 3 to 5, now the brain is 90% developed. Okay. And this is at age 3, we start with the next neural pruning. Now, if you've been on my course from in utero, again, we are minimizing this neural pruning because we are feeding the brain stimuli of, if we say 10 pictures is going to be 1,000,000 synapses fired, we try and do, we call that like one set. We try and do 300 of those a day. So that's pretty intense in terms of what you can do. And obviously in the course, we talk about uniquely forming this for your child, because it's one thing to just, and I went through this, so we're going to talk about that in the course, but where you're just, at one stage, I hate to admit I was a tiger mom, I just had to get through all 300, and I would just flash it, whether or not the child was relaxed and in a loving environment, or I didn't care if the child was itching to get out and play. And that is the issue, is if you do it that way, you might as well not do anything. So that's probably, besides all the neurological evidence you're getting today, that bit of advice is probably one of the things you really need to internalize before you start this course. Okay, so age 3 to 5, we spoke about how the neurogenesis now is being minimized, but now there's the miliogenesis that is starting. And forgive my accent if that doesn't sound right, but the myelin sheath is the fatty part of the nerve cell that now is starting to coat it. And when that fat cell comes around it, it insulates the nerve fibers. So you've often heard of moms holding off on the shots because they are waiting for that to start forming around the brain so the fat can absorb the toxins. And again, we're going to go into that in more detail when we get to detoxing, and hopefully you won't even have to detox from that. Okay, age 5 to 7. Now, this is the exciting part and the sad part. The sad part is that the exponential growth rate of these neurons is definitely slowing. And the fun part of that I like to embrace is now the cognitive skills are coming in. The mid corpus callosum over here is starting to form. So now the left and the right brain can start integrating. And there are lots of fun things that we can take advantage of in this area too. Wow, that was a mouthful. Bless me. I hope that has gone through most of how we are going to set up now the way in which to harness the growth rate for your child, for the exponential stimuli coming in from you, and how we are going to minimize the neural pruning. Now, we just have to understand that the neurogenesis does not stop after 18 months. Remember, I was talking about that. It just happens in a different way. So we do need to keep giving the crucial information to the child to get this fully functioning brain, not only mature, but having the positive interactions, the positive environmental factors, anything that's going to enhance these critical learning periods. So we've spoken about neuroplasticity, and it's probably a good way to end is to talk about there's the functional plasticity, which is more what we're worried about in adults, where you really have to make the brain move in a different way. So example, stroke victims or quadriplegics or paraplegics that have gotten themselves out of wheelchairs, they are literally reforming the neural pathways so that messages can get through to other parts of their body so they can walk and talk again. But we are more interested in the structural plasticity, right? And that is where you can actually physically change the structure of the brain given an experience or a learning experience. And this is where the crux of the course comes in, because we are just going to pump every day, 3 times a day. If you follow any of my social media platforms on Build Your Brain or Build Your Baby's Brain on Instagram, you will see the videos where I nail it down to 7 minutes. So don't get bogged down with how you're going to do all this. You must understand that from ages 0 to 7, just the child smelling a magnolia flower is going to fire the neuron, the synapses, the dendrites, to create that neural pathway. So yes, I'm giving you a formula, and I'm giving you a strategy, and I'm giving you hows and whens. But if you did nothing and you just went for a walk with your child, and your child smelled every single flower or touched everything or observed with the vision the way the birds flew and the butterflies flew and the dragonflies flew, that in itself would have sparked millions of synapses firing. So don't be pressured. I keep going back to the culture of this course, and it's really love. As soon as we let any kind of um, self-will and competitiveness come in, the child will sense that and be totally jolted out of the alpha brainwave stage, and then nothing will go in at a neuron level. Okay, I hope that makes sense. We do not want them in fight or flight. Okay, so another thing that we do in the course are languages. We've spoken about that, and music is a fantastic one. You know that I, in my course, just am the biggest advocate of alpha brainwave music. Anything that's going to strengthen the neural connections. Math is another language, languages themselves, and we strengthen the existing ones because, you know, if you've been doing this course with me at age 5, they've already got an amazing platform of neural pathways. And so just by reinvigorating an old neural pathway, like singing the times table, that will reinforce the synapses on that pathway and ensure that there will be no neural pruning. So yes, that's a good example for us to talk about. The mechanisms of neuroplasticity is the neurogenesis, then backed up by the synaptic pruning. And I know I'm painting synaptic pruning as something terrible, but it actually, we do need to eliminate the weaker synapses and the connections to make the stronger ones stronger, and those stronger ones to then enlarge and continue developing. But at the same time, we want to give your child the best possibility for any type of potential neural growth. And so this is why we harness everything. There's not much neuroscience out there as to, you know, strengthening the ones that are already strengthened and how quickly that can grow and the exponential growth of that. But it's just a logical conclusion that if you're going to take these strong ones and reinforce them, they will get more efficient in the messaging. Okay, then neuro pruning. The one thing that I didn't mention about the process there is that we really aren't worried about weaker synapses. What we're doing again is insurance. We make sure that the child has such a solid platform that the brain really gets rid of the synapses that we weren't working with anyway. So we are just really refining the neural circuits based on the learning experiences that we have given the child. Okay, and then neurogenesis, we spoke about, you know, creating the new neurons and how that really starts tailoring off already by 18 months. However, it's in a different way. They're either processing it, going to a different part of the brain, or primarily this is actually happening in the hippocampus, because that's where your learning and your memory is. So this is also why in the course we're very heavy on physical activities. Besides all the languages, I love to link music and math in there with the languages. So those enhance not only the cognitive function, but the photographic memory. So we've spoken about a lot of positives, but also the negatives here is if your child has gone through any kind of trauma, this course will help in terms of recovering from the injury. And again, this isn't my strong point. I always refer to the Institute for the Achievement of Human Potential that deals with the severely brain injured children. So that is something that you can look into, you know, if your child is deaf or blind or mentally impaired. Okay, and we've spoken about physical exercise now, mental stimulation, and the last one is healthy diet and of course sleep. All of these we are going to go into detail in the next chapter with, and we're going to divide them out per brain. In when I say per brain, the 3 brains: the brain, the heart, and the gut. And let's not forget the social interaction. So after this video, I absolutely insist your homework is to go and hug your child, give them so much love, let them know how special they are to you, but how special they are to the world. I'm doing this course not just to make your child brilliant, but to use their brilliance for the benefit of humanity. So tell them that from me. Give them a hug and kiss. And again, just want to say I'm so proud of you, parents, for investing this time. We've hardly dealt with the neglect and trauma and emotional dysregulation and attachment disorders because you're not giving your child that stress. You're not giving them that inadequate stimulation. You are giving them everything they deserve. And that's why I started off this video with them contracting to have you as parents. So I hope this has given you a lot of insight, and particularly that I'm building this nest of culture within the Build Your Brain community and tribe of love and appreciation, which will automatically bring you joy with your child and a deeper relationship with them. Not to mention your own photographic memory. So I hope this has been enjoyable for you, and I will meet you on the other side of the next video. Have a beautiful day. Bye.